Today we are talking NBA draft from a Hawks perspective. I got my guy David Leon. We're going to talk about where the Hawks may go, where they might go, and all that jazz in between. Hawksbeat podcast starts right now. Let's go.
Kevin Herter to get it in. Everyone standing at State Farm Arena. Herter looks, plays it into Trey. 2 seconds, one. Trey's floater. Good! With .1, and the Hawks are gonna win this game.
I was gonna rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
You are now listening to the Hawksbeat podcast with your host, E-Dub. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome to another edition of the Hawksbeat podcast. I'm your man E-Dub, taking you on another journey of Atlanta Hawks basketball. And today, I brought back my guy, man, who's no stranger to the podcast, my guy David Lee. Everybody affectionately knows him as D Lee for 3. He is the proprietor of the ATL Hawks Film Room podcast, does great work there on all the social media levels. He was so gracious enough to come on and help us out a little bit with some of this draft talk. Mr. Lee, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm good. It's something about that Mike Tyson intro, man. You know, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to talk.
So if you're viewing this on YouTube, I definitely need to update some of the clips, but the audio is still bona fide. I still got a little bit of John Collins in there. Shout out to the homie, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's one of my favorite sound bites of all time, man.
It's a good choice.
Yeah, man. But the NBA draft is man, it is soon among us, man. We're going to talk a little bit of Hawks draft and where they might go at 13 and 22, as well as some other perspectives. But before we get into that, man, I want to spend a few moments just to kind of get your thoughts on the trade that happened within the division. You know, Desmond Bane going to Orlando for 4 first-rounders and Cole Anthony and KCP. Just really quickly, man, let's just get your thoughts on that deal, man, what that does for the Orlando team.
Yeah, I actually really like the deal for Orlando. You know, at face value, it's a lot of picks. Initially, I thought that Suns pick was unprotected. I was like, I don't know about that, but it has some pretty heavy, complicated protections on it. So it won't be like if the Suns tank, it'll still likely be like a 6th through 8th pick or something like that. But in terms of the fit, like I really think there's only 2 other shooting guards you could put on Orlando's team that would be a better fit than Desmond Bane, and it would be Devin Booker and Anthony Edwards. And obviously, those guys would cost a lot more, and then I don't think Anthony Edwards is a realistic ad. So, all things considered, I really like the move for them. He shot 50% on open catch and shoot threes. Orlando shot 35%, which was the worst of any team in the league. They had the worst 3-point percentage of any team over the last 10 seasons. And I'll give you this nugget too. They were so bad from the 3-point line that in home games, if they made more than 10 threes, they were giving out free chicken nuggets, like a full 10 count. Like that's how bad they were. So you get a 3-point shooter the quality of Desmond Bane, you're gonna pay that price. They didn't put any of their young prospects into it. They got off some money. So I mean, I liked it a lot. It is a lot of draft capital to give up, and they're gonna have a lot of money tied up into that core 4, which is like the biggest problem. But he solves all their immediate needs, and if Paolo can sort of, you know, scale back his sort of usage a little bit, I think you're going to be looking at a top 3, top 4 seed in the East. And with Boston down, you know, it is kind of that time to make that sort of move. So yeah, I was a fan of it.
Yeah, you got to go for it. My sentiments exactly. I think long term they're going to have to work out the money issues because I think they're like right at that first apron. And so from a flexibility standpoint, like you can't afford it for nobody to get hurt because you paying them dudes, you know what I'm saying? But I like the Bane kid. I think he's gonna fit in, man. They're gonna be tough, man. They're gonna be tough. He's a 2-way player, can shoot the hell of it out the ball. And I mean, we don't know what them first round picks are gonna be, you know, but I think they saw the door creaking open And I mean, if anything is a testament to that, you got to look at that Indiana team just taking advantage of the opportunity, and they're going for it, man. So got to take your hat off to them, man.
Yeah, I think you'll see a couple teams in the East. At least my prediction is that you'll see like other teams make swing moves. Like this could be a big year for like Eastern Conference teams to try and find that piece. I think they'll take them over the top. You know, maybe something the Hawks are interested in too. But I think you'll definitely see a team like Miami be aggressive, or Detroit as well will probably be very aggressive too. So I think we're gonna have a lot of player movement. So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be an arms race in the East, man. It's gonna be an arms race, especially after this season with Indiana making the run that they did, and like nothing's guaranteed. You know, Boston, they're gonna have their guy out, and you know it's wide open. So if you're gonna make a move, make the move. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, because that window be small.
Oh, for sure.
Window be small. Let me ask you this as we pivot to draft coverage. Like, put on your GM hat. You know, there's several schools of thought when it comes to drafting. Some people are like, I got to draft for need. I got to draft best player available, regardless of position. Where do you fall in line as far as like your draft perspective? If you're a GM, do you go for need? Do you go for best player available? Do you kind of get into you know, both? Like, what is your manifesto?
So I honestly feel like I lean more towards fit than most people, and it doesn't mean it's the ends all bees all though. For example, I think some of the Hawks' biggest needs is like strength creation, a positional size, defensive playmaking, and then spacing. But there are prospects that I feel higher on that may not necessarily slot directly into those areas of need that I'd be willing to take. And so I think it's more so about gauging how important are these needs for your team, and where else could you get that sort of like addition to your team. So like, for example, for the Hawks, shooting is to an extent one of the cheapest things to add in the NBA. So there was a time when I was really high on Liam McNeely, who was a 6'8" wing who was supposed to come in and shoot the ball really well. He shot it really well in high school, and he's very inconsistent. He wasn't able to get to his own spots, and he looked overmatched in terms of like a creator. And so while he could be a really great shooter for someone like the Hawks, he's not someone that I would take just to satisfy that need when there are other prospects I'm higher on. And so I kind of like build out my boards based on like what I value the most in prospects and what I'm seeing in the playoffs and what I'm seeing in the trends of the NBA in general. And so my overall board is going to have like a lot of guys who are very active in the passing lanes, aggressive defenders, but also have positional size versatility. They can create in multiple ways. We've seen them perform in different contexts. And so I'm a little bit lower on guys who you've only ever seen be successful with the ball in their hands versus someone who could scale up and down, or someone who like played a role on a championship team, or like in a different context, whether it's AAU or an international team. And then we see them sort of like play a much more on ball role in college. So that's someone like Trey Johnson, who when he was on ball in Texas, scored the ball really well. Didn't look as like he was able to get to the rim or pass as well. But when you look at him in other contexts, he's a much more fleshed out, much more versatile player. So that's kind of like how I look at it. And I think a good example for the Hawks in particular, like Kamen Malawach is a guy who fits our needs perfectly, right? But to get him, you'd have to trade up. So it's like, is he going to be the best player? What's the difference in the talent level between 13, 22 and moving up to 8, and considering the cost to move up to get him?
Yeah.
So I think it's a mix of things.
Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, I was just saying, I think it's a mix of things. I think I lean more towards areas of need. And then if I can fit this, I'm not going to try and fit a prospect in there if I think he's good enough at other things, if that makes sense.
My sentiments are that I kind of lean to best player available with kind of a caveat, because I mean, you have to consider need, like you have to, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm kind of a tweener. I mean, if all things are equal, I'm just going to get the best guy. You know, I'm just going to get the best guy and figure everything else out. You know what I'm saying? You talked about moving up for Malawach, and there's been a lot of talk about that, especially on Twitter and just in different spaces. From my opinion, and I'm not really a draft guy. I get into the draft maybe a few weeks. You know, I'm not a guy that I can look at. You know, I'm not a draft guy like all season. That's why, you know, I bring on guys whose opinion I value. In my opinion, this is a very good draft. Like, it's a very good draft. And like the grades for me, from a guy who's like maybe like 8 to maybe even 22, like the grades aren't really that much of a difference. And so like, if you're talking about like packaging picks and giving up assets, and again, this is me, I don't think it's particularly worth it. But what is your opinion on the 13 and 22 and possibly moving up? Would you be willing to part with something if the deal was right? You know what I'm saying? Would you be willing to part with the Kobe Buffkin or like a Vic Krejci? I mean, I don't know. Whatever the package may be. Like, what are your thoughts on possibly moving up into that top 10 possibly?
Yeah, I think my biggest sort of like hesitancy moving up is that I'm very optimistic about a lot of bigs in this class, and I think that as much as Malu Watch makes so much sense for the Hawks, and like if the Hawks had a board and they were like, hey, these are the guys we think would translate best within our context, I think even Malu Watch's agent should be like, I want to go to Atlanta because there's no better situation for him. There's no better situation for the Hawks. Like it's very clear cut. But when I think about him as a prospect, like I have bigs ahead of him. And then I basically like I have like 5 tiers within like the first round of the draft. And 3 of those tiers are within the first 6 picks. So the rest of the draft is somewhat equal, in my opinion, in terms of like overall ceiling or where I can project them to be. But there's different styles of players, there's different styles of bigs. And so Malawatch is the best, in my opinion, a roller or traditional big in this class. You can maybe throw Kalkbrenner in there too. But then you've got guys that are more versatile or more better passers or better shooters or better off the dribble or better screeners or better rebounders. Like there's all these other areas where they may be more proficient in. And it's more so like, I don't think Malawatch is a finalized prospect by any means. Like, so if you move up, you have to take that with the understanding that he's going to need time to develop. And bigs always take longer than like a wing, for example. And so I think personally, I'd rather have those 2 bites at the apple. I'd rather see if we can make some shake at 13, make some shake at 32, at 22. It also is just depending on the price. Like if I can retain one of my picks, I prefer that. I'm still very optimistic about Kobe Buffkin, but if he's the price I have to pay to keep additional draft capital out of it, then I might be convinced to do so. But I also just think teams like the only teams you really trade up with would be Washington, New Orleans, maybe, and Brooklyn. And I think all those teams to some extent would likely want to pick where they're at. So it'd have to be a very convincing offer. It's tough. I think, you got to scope out the scenery for sure, because again, Korver's been invested in the kid since 2021 and he knows him really well. So you got to take a look at it. I would want to keep future draft capital out of it as much as possible, because again, I'm so high on some of these other bigs, but I wouldn't be mad at it depending on the price. Now, I think an overpay would be like 13, 22 and like Buffkin, or 13, 22. And if you can also get off a contract like Terrence Mann, then it's like, oh, okay, I can see that. So there's some scenarios where it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, no disrespect to Terrence Mann, but the money is the money, you know what I mean?
Yep. And it's a lot of money.
What do the Hawks need? I mean, like, what do the Hawks need? I think we all kind of have an idea, but in your opinion, what do they need?
Yeah. To me, I think they need a lot of strength-based guys. And what that looks like is like, it doesn't mean just post-ups. It means like being able to finish through contact. It means being able to finish above and through people at the rim. And to me, like when I outline the areas of need, it's like play finishing. So we were first in shot quality. Trae Young and Quinn Snyder generated the best looks of any team in the NBA. Only one that was close was Denver. But we were 15th in effective field goal percentage, which is like a measure of shot efficiency. So you need to turn that conversion rate up. Connectivity too. You need guys who make quick decisions. That's part of why DeAndre Hunter was traded. Positional size, like they rotate a lot, and so they need guys with size to be able to tag bigs, clean up the glass, and then creation upside. Like we were the worst team in the league in terms of self-created shot making among our top 8. And some of that's limitations for Trae, and then also like you're playing guys like Dyson and Zach who have never really had the ball in their hands that much, right? And so I think a lot of it starts with strength. And the guy. Like there's guys that define strength. Like I think Colin Murray Boyles is like a very strength-based creator, but he has the touch. And so I think it starts with the play finishing, but you ideally, in at 13, it can be tough. You want someone who can do a little bit more than just be a play finisher. And there's guys in that range where I think you could get away with that. So you start with the strength, you start with the play finishing. But it's like, okay, what can this guy grow into down the line? What has he showed in college or in other contexts where we can say, okay, maybe he can develop to be something a little bit more. And that's really where I've started with like the needs for the Hawks.
Yeah. I was listening to the Brad today on Locked On. Good friend of the show. We all know Brad. Brad does yeoman's work for the Hawks, and they do a great job over there. And he did a mock draft today, and he ended up with I think it was Derek Queens and call him Murray Boyles.
Mhm.
So interesting. I mean, I think if all things fail and like those were the two they got, like personally, I would be fine with those two guys. You know, just curious on your thoughts. First on the Derek kid, and then Colin the Boyles kid.
Yeah, I like Colin Murray Boyles a lot. Like he is probably my favorite prospect in the class. Just because I think he does so many things so well. He's so good defensively. He's like a real havoc creator, and I also think he's so versatile defensively. Like he can play any coverage and pick and roll. I think he can moonlight as a small ball 5, provided you have enough size at the 4. He plays bigger than he's listed. Super strong, great touch. You know, there's shooting concerns, but I think guys that are this strong and this gifted as like he had one of the best ISO scoring efficiencies of guys that are above 6'6" in the class. And we're talking about someone who played on like a really, really rough South Carolina team. Like they were really bad. And he carried them. And he also improved so much from sophomore year. Now, Derek Queen, I'm a little sour on him. I'm not gonna lie to you. And it's not that I don't believe that he can be good or that I think he's bad. It's just I worry about his translation for the Hawks because I don't think he's a 5 at all. And if he's not a 5, then he's gonna have to be able to space the floor, I think. And the shot has never really been projectable. He didn't shoot it a ton in high school. Didn't shoot it very well in Maryland. And all of his like creation stuff or like unicorn off the dribble stuff, he actually did not shoot it very well off the dribble. Like he was below 30% off the dribble jumpers. He was below 1 points per possession as a driver. All the ISO numbers are like they're good for bigs, but like it's more so about the volume. So people are looking at the volume and saying, okay, he can get better. And I think he's very far in the NBA context of generating his own shot. So if he was a better shooter or a better defender, I'd be like, cool. Now I will say though, like he has one of the higher ceilings just because of his handle for his size, and he is so skilled. I just worry about can we really make him tenable defensively with all the other things we have to worry about. And if like, for example, him and Onyeka would work really well offensively, I don't know what that looks like defensively because Queen can move, but he doesn't like provide resistance at the rim. And he was so much better with Julian Reese, Angel Reese's brother, next to him versus when he was off the court. I don't know, man. He really worries me. I think he has to go to a situation like I think he's very situation dependent. I think Washington would have a great outcome with him with Sarr and their versatility around him. I don't know if I love him for Atlanta. I understand why Brad did it though, because like if you look at the roster, you need someone who can create their own shot. And you know, we want to project that for Dyson and Zach and Jalen. Derek Queen can at least create the separation on the college level that we never saw from these guys pre-draft. You know what I mean? So like I understand making that bet. He worries me though, and I don't think I would make that bet just because I think guys like Colin Murray Boyles or Thomas Sorber are guys that I would rather make that bet to say, okay, they can be. I know where they are defensively. Then it's like, okay, what can they give us offensively with the passing? But yeah. He worries me.
The thing that I you talked about is ceiling. That was kind of what I was sold on. You know, just the ceiling and the Hawks' ability to their ability to get these guys at another level, you know, how you've seen some of these guys develop, you know what I'm saying? And so my comfort was, oh yeah, they can get them there. And because, you know, like I was just impressed with the ceiling and everything. And so that's kind of why I was sold on it. When you look at the 13 and 22 picks, let's start with the point guard position. Now, there are some guys out there that are intriguing to me. They've been trying to get a point guard for trade for the longest, and of course, like I don't think you're drafting a guy to come in and immediately be the backup point guard. I don't necessarily see a guy that can come in and necessarily do that. What are your opinions on a point guard? When I say point guard, what like comes to your mind at maybe 13 or 22? Is there a guy that you're high on or a guy who can maybe be the backup guy in maybe 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, I think the point guards in this class are actually kind of weak in my opinion. And it's also, and this is something I've heard from draft guys like with Intel, they're saying they think it's more likely that the guards drop in this draft as opposed to like the bigs or the wings. And I don't think it's that they're bad. It's just they all have like relative concerns. Like Jeremiah Fears played at Trey's alma mater. He's supposed to be graduating from high school this year. He reclassed up. He
That's
wasn't
crazy.
even supposed to be in the 26 draft. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, the 25 draft, like everyone was projecting him to be 26. And he just took over that offense. And the creativity, the craft, the production, the usage was really, really special for his age. But then you're talking about someone who's 6'2.5". Talking about someone who has finishing concerns, someone who didn't shoot the ball well at all consistently from the 3-point line. And so he has those concerns. And then you got someone like Jace Richardson, who was more of an off-ball guard, but he measured at 6 foot flat almost, or 6'1.5". And while he has a plus wingspan, I think it's fair to wonder, like, okay, how much value can you bring as a 6 foot guy off the ball if you're also not a great defender? And I think he would be someone that the Hawks have brought in for a workout. They're definitely taking a look at him. It's more so like, do you believe he can be that on-ball guard versus like, can he continue to be off the ball in the NBA? And if you think he could be an on-ball guard and you believe in the shooting and all that, then I could see it. But he's someone that I'd be a little bit worried about. Now, I think Kasparas, Yakuchonis, he played at Illinois. This dude turned the ball over. OD. All year he turned the ball over. But that happens a lot with young point guards. And also when you're that level playmaker, then I give you that leeway. You know what I mean? Like, you're a younger point guard, but you're also making very audacious reads and skip passes. And his question mark is like, he shot the ball so well before he hurt his forearm. He was shooting 40% on tough shots, step back threes, mixing guys up off the dribble, carving to the lane, hurt his forearm, and then he lost his shot. And so now it's about, again, because he did not have a strong shooting sample before college, it's like, well, which one's real? You know what I mean? So, and then, of course, the turnover issues and the defensive issues. I think Walter Clayton Jr. is someone that I was higher on earlier than, like, I was higher on him before the March Madness run, because I see so much Peyton Pritchard and Fred VanVleet in him as like a bulkier guy who isn't going to be a super impactful defender, but he's going to be gritty. He's going to get up a ton of threes, and he can make reads as like a secondary ball handler. And he's a really, really gifted shooter. I think he's a top 3 shooter. With the way he played in March Madness, I think he could be there at 22. I know Orlando would definitely love him at like 25 or 26. He's someone that could make sense for us. And then you got the guy in overseas, Nolan Traore. He was a consensus top 5 pick in this class. He started off very slow, but closed the season off a little bit stronger. He has shooting concerns too, but he's at least 6'4". He's just really light. Like, he's like if how Kobe came into the league, he's kind of built like that. Like, he's 180 pounds at 6'4". So I don't love the point guard class, honestly. Like, I think if I had to take one, it'd be Walter Clayton at 22. But even then, I feel like I wouldn't want, and the reason why I would take him and not someone else like a Kasparas or I would take Walter. Sorry, I would take Walter or Jace over like Fears or Kasparas or Nolan Traore. And the reason I say that is like, the Hawks are building with multiple ball handlers in mind. You got Dyson, you got Kobe, presumably, if he can stay healthy. You got Jalen Johnson, you got Karis LeVert. Those, like, I think they want to run the bench office by committee. And so you don't want to, I don't think they necessarily want someone, or I don't necessarily think it's the best idea to have someone come in and run all the reps as a rookie or even like as a 2nd or 3rd year player. It's going to be important that they run it. They're a lot more egalitarian with the way they run the bench offense, because you need to see which one of those guys is going to pop and be that guy we're going to run the offense through when Trey's off the floor. And so I think you've seen Walter Clayton be effective off the ball with Florida running off handoffs and, letting other guys handle. And then you've seen Jace do the same thing at Michigan State. So like, those 2 guys would be the guards I would take. But I just like the wings and the bigs in this class more for the Hawks, and also in general, that I probably wouldn't take them. And I'd probably try to see if I can find a point guard using the TPE or like the MLE. So
absolutely, I would do the exact same thing. I like Clayton. I don't really see a fit for Richardson on this team. Like, I just don't.
He's small, man.
He's small. I just don't see it. I mean, I think he's a great kid. I just don't like the fit. Clayton. I like Clayton, and I'm a Florida guy. Like, I mean, I watched a lot of him. Maybe if we were a little bit back in the draft, maybe so. But at 22, there's just too many wings, too many bigs out there for me to justify, like, grabbing that point guard there. But like, I mean, I hope they go, first round. I hope they get paid. I pull for them, and I love that comp that you said for Clayton Jr., because I see that as well. He's a scrappy kid, and scrappy can get you paid, bro. Like, scrappy can get you paid, and you can't really coach that. But I'm going to ask you a little bit later who you like for the Hawks at 13 and 22. I'm going to ask you to give me 2 names, but I want to go to wings. Like, who were 2 wings that you find intriguing maybe at 13 and 22, not specifically, but like who are two wings that you kind of find intriguing? Because I mean, this class is actually full of wings, from my estimation. And I'm not really a draft guy. I'm like, oh man, like here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. Like I think this is pretty fairly deep with wings in this draft.
I think Carter Bryant is the guy that I've been like locked in on. You know, obviously I don't have the privilege of interviewing these guys or like having connects across the league to know how they're interviewing. At least not yet, you know, hopefully down the line. But everything I've seen from him, like he meditates before games. He's extremely locked in. The team performs so much better when he enters the rotation. And you see all these like other ways he impacts the game outside of his offense. And now the offense is a legitimate concern because like he didn't look comfortable putting the ball on the floor or creating for himself. And that's something you ideally do want from a wing at some point. But he's a really special defender. I liked Ryan Dunn a lot last draft cycle. And he reminds me of Ryan Dunn a lot.
Carter Bryant is what? He's what, 6'7", 6'8", 6'9"?
He measured at 6'6" and a half. He's got a 6'11" wingspan. So his wingspan is about like 5 inches longer. So he's got more like his height is more effective. Like if you think about like what his wingspan gives him, his effective height is closer to like 6'8", 6'9". And he's a very athletic kid. Was a productive, like protecting the rim and also like on the ball. I don't really have many questions about him defensively. I think he could relatively quickly be an impact defender, like in the mold of like a Tari Eason or like, you know, a guy like that. The offense is really the big question with him. Like, what can he be? Like when you watch his high school tape, which I try to look into to see like what he looked like when he wasn't playing a role. It's some flashes for sure, but a lot of guys look good in high school. You know what I mean? So it's like, I could see the aggressiveness sometimes, even in college. Like he'd take a turnaround fadeaway or he'd drive a closeout, but it wasn't there enough. And like he shot 72 or 73% at the rim, but I think almost all of them were assisted. And you know, like he wasn't doing it himself. Now the other guy, there's two older guys that the Hawks could look at. Nick Clifford for Colorado State, he did everything for that team. And then Cedric Coward, Washington State, he got hurt 6 games in, but he has a very long track record as a good shooter, has insane measurables. Like he's 6'5" with a 7'2" wingspan, which is ridiculous. And he's tied for the biggest wingspan height differential in the class. And that, again, that gives him a much bigger effective height. And because he's quick with his feet, but he can guard bigger because of his length, like that's a really valuable trait. And then like the younger guy I would look at is Adou Thiero, played at Arkansas, transferred from Kentucky. Actually, he's older than Cedric Coward, but he's like younger in terms of like collegiate years. The dude is like a crazy athlete, and I think he's like a really special defender as well. The shooting is a question, but I think he's going to be like I have him like a Christian Brown type of guy. So what I was thinking, like, you know, like someone who's going to be really dangerous in transitions, going to provide resistance defensively, you know, grind on the boards, and hopefully develops into like a 3-point spacer. But yeah, there's like again, like we mentioned, this class is deep. Like the Hawks would have to try to disappoint me. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of different combos of guys that I'd be okay with. So I'm on that same page as you for real.
Do you think that there is like a element of thought that like, and there's so many guys where like, okay, like this is clearly a defensive guy, and then like you see, and like this is clearly an offensive guy. Do you think that if the Hawks go like, do you think they'll try to balance it? Like, okay, 13 we go defense, maybe 22 will kind of lean offense, or do you think they'll just go just best player available, whatever it is? You know, if we get 2 defensive guys, we get 2 defensive guys. Like, I wonder what the school of thought is there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Probably you would ideally want to do like a swing on 2 different types of prospects. Like for example, you don't want to bring in 2 defensive specialists because you know, they overlap, or if they're at the same position. Like you wouldn't want to take, I don't think you take 2 centers in this draft. But what if you take someone like, just for argument's sake, you take someone like Noah Sengwe, who played overseas. He's a athletic finisher, defensive first prospect right now. And then, you know, you could say, okay, we've got our defense first prospect. Guys got a lot of length. Let's go Walter Clayton, or let's go Maxime right now, like a great shooting big man. I could see them doing that for sure. I think ideally they'll go best player available or whoever they think fits the system best, but I think that makes sense to me.
Who are some bigs that you find intriguing?
Yeah, it's a lot of bigs. Thomas Silver, Georgetown. We talked about the measurables. His wingspan, he has a 7'6" wingspan, which is the same as Common Malawash, but he is about 4 inches shorter. So Sorber is about 6'10", He is similar to Onyeka's size, but again, we're talking about a guy who has his wingspan is almost 9 inches longer than his height. And so his effective height is a lot closer to 7 foot. So that's kind of like how I think about it. He was super productive. I love his passing. I've thought about him a lot as like Paul Millsap. And he's, again, a very strong guy, but he has touch and skill. The other guy, Hanson Yang, the Hawks just worked him out. He's like one of the more fun prospects. Like I spent hours watching him. I'm going to have a whole video on him because I think he could be one of the like most electric passers in this draft. Mentioned it at 7'1". He's a legit post scorer. Now, when you play in the Chinese Basketball Association, I think it's fair to, to question the competition. I mean, I saw some goofy stuff on that film. Now, he did play like legitimate size NBA bigs. Like the average CBA big is taller than the average NBA big. And that kind of normalizes out. You know what I mean? Like in the NBA, we're trending towards smaller ball, more versatility. The CBA is all the guys who are too big who are big enough for the NBA, but not skilled enough. So that's kind of like, I thought he saw size, but he didn't see NBA skill necessarily by any means. The next guy would be Maxime right now. He led all D1 high major schools in double doubles. He made the most threes by 7-footer in D1 history. Only Lauri Markkanen, I think, tied him. Averaged 20 and 10. Would have won ACC Player of the Year if it wasn't for Cooper Flagg. Again, a guy who did everything for his team. And so, but because of his shooting ability, I think he scales down really nicely for the Hawks.
You think he'll be there at 22? I've often like, I think if you don't get him at 13, I don't think he'll be there at 22.
I thought he would have been there at 22 previously after the combine and some of the chatter.
I feel like his stock is rising, and I feel
I think San Antonio could
13
take him.
is like I would. I don't know about 13. Like I would be okay at 13 if you grabbed him.
Yeah.
But like if you got him at 22, I would feel like you hit a home run. But I don't know if he's going to be there at 22. And so, like, I don't know, man. I mean, I like the kid. I really like the kid. I don't know if I love him at 13. I love him a lot more at 22. But I kind of feel like he's going to go in between 13 and 22, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. And he's also 22 years old. So, like, taking a prospect that old at 13, like, historically, very few guys drafted that high, that old, have been productive NBA players. And so, it would be a risk. Like, I mean, it's like, and I like him a lot too. I think if he gets past San Antonio at 14, Minnesota, because they're probably going to take a big, but I'd imagine they take a more defensively minded one. I think there's a chance, but it's not a great one. And so if they want him, they probably would have to take him 13. But there's another, like, again, there's just so many bigs. Like, for example, Ryan Kalkbrenner is like, I think he's Luke Kornet easily. Like, I think he was like a 2-time defensive player of the year in college, shut down the rim, finished at almost 70% at the rim. He makes a lot of sense for the Hawks too, even if he isn't as like dynamic or versatile or as sexy as like some of these other bigs. Like he's 7'1" with a 7'6" wingspan, and he's 260 pounds. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And he can move. Like he's not a statue. There's a lot of bigs in this class, man. Like
Luke
again, it'd be hard.
Free agent.
He is a free agent.
But I think Kornet's a free agent.
Someone might give him 20 mil or like 15 mil. So like if you can get baby Kornet on a rookie contract, the 22nd pick, I might be more, interested in that. Oh, another sleeper big, Mari Williams. I can't remember the Hawks account who tagged me about him, but I'm a fan of his. Again, older big, but he can really pass the ball. Like really, really pass the ball. He's 6'10", 7'6" wingspan. He reminds me a lot of Jakob Poeltl or even Larry Nance, but of course bigger and more defensively capable. So they got their pick of the litter at 13 and or 22.
When you're the Hawks and we're talking about need again, obviously Onyeka is going to be the guy. There's a number of direction of ways they can go after Onyeka. You could play Jalen small ball 3, like, you can bring Larry Nance Jr. back if you want to. You had the other young kid. He's on the contract. I can't remember his name. He played like kind of a 2-way last year. But like there's a number of different ways they can go with that backup position. Yeah. If you're the Hawks and you're looking to fill a need, what kind of big do the Hawks need?
I think they need a passer and plus defender. would be my outlook. And so like the best fit for that is Thomas Sorber, in my opinion.
Mhm.
If you believe in Model Watch defense, then I think you trade up. If you believe in Hanson Yang being mobile enough and having enough vertical explosion to defend in the NBA, then you take him at 22. But like there's like three different guys, like different levels of passing. Like Hanson Yang is legitimately awesome passer. He can make any pass that you could ever want a big man to make, plus some really special stuff. Thomas Sorber, he has some of that, not as consistent as Yang, but I think he could also be there. And then Malowacz is a little bit more theoretical. He does it. He showcased it like a tiny bit. I think he can get there, but like this free throw shooting touch, and then like what you see like before Duke, I buy that a little bit offensively. So yeah, I those three bigs are like the guys that, of course, Colin Murray Boyles as well will be above all of those guys, but
Yeah.
those are the bigs I look at.
Yeah. The guy I was thinking about was Dominic Barlow. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's still under contract, but that like they have options behind Onyeka. We're not going to go into like the free agent. I have to bring you back. We'll do another free agency stuff,
Yeah.
Talk about Miles Turner, all that stuff, because all of that stuff really matters. Like when you're thinking draft and when you're thinking about roster construction, like you have to have in the back of your mind, okay, what are we going to do with Larry Nance? What are we going to do with Karis LeVert? Are we going to pay these guys? Or, like all these things matter. And, and then, you got the front office stuff. Like,
right.
I highly doubt they're going to bring in somebody like 5 days before the draft and be like, hey, you're in charge. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's just going to be Anzi's call to make. And that's a whole nother thing. So there's a lot of stuff that's in flux for this Hawks team, man. But I kind of like it. I kind of like this time of year where this time of year where there's like a lot of stuff that is, where it could go, where it can't go, ultimately, when it comes down to it, if I'm putting you on the clock, just like Brad was on the clock, you're at 13. I'm not going to tell you who's 13 available before you. Your ideal position, if you had to kind of hit your rope to one guy at 13, who would be your ideal guy?
Yeah, my ideal guy is Colin Murray Boyles for sure. He's projected to have a wider range than like you may expect if you see him if you see people talk about him on Twitter. I've seen people say he could fall all the way to 18. It really depends on and the way it's been explained to me, or like when I listen to podcasts and the way they explain it. Sam Vecini was saying, if you have a coach who understands his gifts and you think he can maximize him, because he's a unique player. He's not saying you have to change your whole system, but like you have to have an inventive coach that can maximize him. And if you're not going to have that type of coach, you're not going to have that type of player, those players around him, it doesn't make sense. But I think for Atlanta, with the motion offensively play, how much we switch defensively, Quinn Snyder's sort of principles, and then like our need for physicality, I think he makes a lot of sense. Also, I forgot to mention these bigs earlier, but Yon Bernier is also someone the Hawks should probably take a look at, and Yannick Conan-Niederhauser at Penn State as well. Those guys are like very traditional, very athletic bigs, but they should take a look at them too.
Yeah, and like the depth of diversity of like where these guys can go. Like I've seen Burrows go anywhere from like top 10 to like 29. Like I've seen them so many different places in all of these mock drafts. And crazy, the funny thing about these mock drafts, these guys don't know. We're all guessing, right? But like that is where it is, and I think that speaks to this class's depth. And like, there's just a lot of good players this year to choose from. A lot of good guys who I think will have solid NBA careers. When we're looking back in 3 to 5 years, I think people will be pleasantly surprised about how good this draft is. So that was at 13, putting you on the clock again at number 22. Put on your GM hat and tell me your ideal guy at 22. Do you see anybody falling? Like, what would be your ideal position at 22?
It's interesting, man. Like, I think 22 is a lot harder to project, but I think I'd take a look at Hanson Yang here, because I really do believe in him. Like, I have him pretty high on my board relative to everyone else. If he's there and I get my defensive, again, like you mentioned, defensive first or offensive first, CMB is very defensively tilted, and then I think his physicality, his frame, and then Yang's passing ability, potential spacing upside, I think they make a lot of sense together, but also like I posted some clips on Twitter, but one thing you see Indiana do a lot is have Pascal, they throw the ball to Andrew Nembhard or Tyrese Halliburton. Pascal Siakam comes to set a ghost screen. He walks down the mismatch to the post. They enter the ball to Miles Turner at the top of the key. And because Miles Turner can make that pass, that entry pass to Siakam, they get really easy offense that way. And I can see that working so effectively with Hanson Yang making that pass because he made that pass dozens of times in CBA. And Jalen Johnson walking down a mismatch or CMB walking down a mismatch. So I think the synergy between those guys would be really good. If Sorber falls there, I would take him over Yang. And then if Yang and Sorber isn't there, then I'd go with like Kalkbrenner or right now. It really just depends. But like, again, like there's a lot of guys I'd be happy with there.
It's hard to project at 22. Yang is 7'2", 7'3".
He's 7'2".
7'2". Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the Yang kid. I think he's very smart. I would love to see what this Hawks staff can do as far as his development, because I'm big on this Hawks staff in their development. I mean, you look at guys that they have developed like Jalen Johnson, Mo Gay. I mean, even Kobe, like everyone that's gotten to the system has developed like exponentially. Sure. Think about the two-way guys that we've had over the years. Like everyone has developed. Like that College Park is gold, man. And I've covered a lot of College Park games. I'm like, yo, man, like they are doing something. Something is in the water there, man. So
yeah.
I'm very high on the Hawks' ability to develop some of these guys. And so I think it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun to see who comes in. And I think that depending on the free agency moves, whoever they draft can come in and just kind of develop, because look, Hawks are going to try to win games next year, bro. Like they're going to try to win games. And so you're not looking for a guy to come in and be the savior of your franchise or even be, he's got to be the backup point guard. He's got to be no, man, you can come in and learn, because our first 8 guys needs to be set. Like if they want to compete, that first 8 to 9 needs to be set. These rooks, you can bring them along slowly, and that's the ideal thinking that I have for these rookies. Like they're going to come in, they're going to develop, because like that 5 and that top 8 or 9, they're going to be trying to win ball games.
Yep. Agreed.
They're going to try to win ball games. So we will wait and see, man. But I appreciate your time, man. I appreciate you chopping it up with me. And let all the folks know about all the things that you got your hands into, man. I catch your ATL, your draft room and everything. I mean, your film room. The last episode you had, man, y'all was rolling, man. Y'all was like 2 hours. I had to catch that thing in spurts, but it was really good, man. It was really good. I mean, I'm a purist. I'm a nerd. I love that stuff that y'all get into, man. But let everybody know all the things that you got going on, man.
For sure, man. Again, appreciate you so much again for having me on. Trying to ground out the draft content. Got some things planned. I'm working on a website actually to try and display my board in a more creative way. So hopefully I get that out before the draft. And then it'll have write-ups on there. It'll have all the stats you need. Great graphics made by my guy at Tip Off B-Ball, who's done like my graphics recently. Definitely recommend checking him out. Should have some YouTube videos out too. I'm trying to figure out what I can get out before the draft comes out. But yeah, y'all stay tuned. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. That's where I'm gonna be at on the podcast as well. And again, man, I hope y'all enjoy it.
Appreciate you for stopping by, man. As always, man. No visitor to the show, man. This guy's family, man. Always does a great job. Appreciate you. Like we always say at the Hawksbeat podcast, God is good all time, and all time God is good. So if you don't know him, you need to find him. Show him some love, because that is all he is showing you. LOVE love. We out. Peace.
Kevin Huerter to get it in. Everyone standing at State Farm Arena. Huerter looks. Plays it into Trey. 2 seconds, one. Trey's floater. Good! With .1! And the Hawks are going to win this game.
I was going to rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
You are now listening to the Hawksbeat podcast with your host,